in a few minutes how we open and close these windows. So when we download our modules, for instance, we have in the edit up top, we've got a preferences, and this is where everything happens in the actual preferences. So I'm going to click on that, and then we've got all these toolbars over here, interface, theme, and whatever. And the add-ons is specifically important, and the actual add-on that we're using is a pie menu, which is where all of our modules are actually housed. And so in the pie menu, I'll open it up. The new pie menu that we're using only has one window as opposed to two windows. And we would then import, and we would then import our menu, which would be in the B4D folder in your computer. And then you've got all of the modules that you've downloaded here in the root directory. Here, for example, the model designer, you would then highlight that and you would activate this on the website and paste in the key, a password code, and then import the menu, and that will import the menu. So with having said that, we'll just flip over to the 2.83 LTS version, which looks a bit different because you can see the floor is a little bit different. This is because we're working in millimeters and not in meters. Also, you'll notice that the windows have been taken away. So the only thing we can do is if we press the N key, shortcut N key on your keyboard, or the T key, we've got a left-hand window and the right-hand window appear. And like I've said earlier, we've got all of the Blender menus on the right-hand side. Here you can see we've got the model designer. Over here is the crown menu, and we'll have the block art menu, the bleach menu, the bracket menu. All of that would appear on the right-hand side over there. So we're going to open up a few windows, and Blender is amazing because we've got this opportunity to make as many windows as we like. So what I want to do is I'm going to move up my cursor. Wolfgang, can you just mute that? Because that's just like super irritating.
Just a minute. Yeah, it's muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So to open up a window, we're going to move the mouse. And by the way, get yourself a 3D mouse with a mouse wheel. That mouse wheel is very important because you can click on it. Some people don't know that you can click on this mouse wheel, and it's very important. So I'm going to move up, and we're going to move until the cross appears, and that allows us to drag windows open like this. And we can open as many windows as we like. Okay.
Hey, Michael, can you just show us like an easy way? I mean, sometimes this can be a bit tricky, you know, opening and closing these windows. Where does a cross have to be, and how do you pull it? You know, how do you close it?
Well, the cross appears when you go into a corner, like over here or over here. But you've got to close them in a specific order, because here we've got two windows. You can't, you know, you can't drag this way where there's two windows. So you've got two windows and one window. You have to drag, like here's a window and there's a window. So we can drag this into that window, and then we can drag this one into this window. So there's a specific order, but it's quite easy to follow. So this big window, we can't drag into these two small windows. We generally take the size of the window would fit into the other size of the window. So this one can close into this window. Now this is like super cool, because when we do like a wax up, a diagnostic wax up or something, we can then work on the model in front, and we can work on the model this way as well. Now you'll see there's a tooltip that appears there. These are our tooltips, and they usually appear there for like 200 seconds, so you can actually read the tooltip. So for example, if we click on the model designer up top here, It'll tell you like a version number or so on. And then we have a video button there. Now, what is that about? It's like when we click on the model, especially the model designer video button, it brings up a website page on our website, and you'll see general information, update modules, and in particular importance is this general information where it tells you an update log. So whenever we make a change, as far as the menu or the script is concerned, this will appear over here and it'll give you specific instructions what to do. Like for example, on the 14th of the 6th, there was a change in the articulator module and it tells you then what to do. Okay, so that's quite important. Keeps you in touch with our developments as well, because you don't want to run old scripts and then all of a sudden your module doesn't work. So if your module doesn't work, for example, it's highly likely that the scripts have been updated. The only thing you need to do then is click Update Module. It'll pull it from our Dropbox and put it into your computer, and you don't have to do anything else. But you've got to be logged onto the internet to be able to use this button. If there's a menu change, follow the videos. Our video tutorials explains how to change the menu. All right, so the windows here, we've got, we can select different windows. For example, this is the 3D viewport, and we may want to see a different window. So up top on the right-hand side, we get to choose all the different windows that Blender offers. So for example, I use the text editor a lot, okay, just to write codes and scripts and stuff. Then we have the outliner, which is a super, super important one that we should all learn inside out how it works. We've got another one, the properties toolbox, where all the modifiers are here. The colors and, the colors of models, and there's a lot of information, how Blender works. This is in the properties here. So I'm going to just close this down, and now the outliner window has a few different icons on the right hand side. So these are the view icons. Particularly important is this one and this one. By default, you won't see them, but this is like a filter. So you can filter out what you want to do in the outliner window. The outliner also has like a little search box here. So if you've got like 120 objects on the scene and you can't find a specific model, this is in the search box. You will then type in the object name. And object names are very important because this is how we manage our objects. For example, now this one here is called B4D upper and B4D lower. You may want to change the name, and so if you want to change the name, you just double click and then you type in lower, enter. Oh, yep, and then you've changed the name of the object. Colors are very important. We work with names and colors, and the third one is collections. Now, collections are like layers. You get Photoshop, you've got layers. Other programs have layers where we can hide things in these layers. In Blender, they are called collections. And the default one when you open up Blender is called collection. How original. So we've got collection. And so we may want to start a whole new hierarchy of collections. So if I close it here, this is my hierarchy, and we're going to move one into a new collection. Now, how do we do that? We can right click on this thing and we can click on new collection, and that'll make a new collection. Or what we can do is we can go into the 3D viewport and we can then click on M on the keyboard. M is for move. So move into new collection, and we'll call that, say, models, okay? And press OK. Now our top model is in a new collection called models. So it's very important to understand this. Then notice how if I click on the model, it highlights an orange and it highlights an orange over here as well. That tells me that the model has been selected. So we can select models here or we can select models here. We can hide models here or we can hide them by clicking H and Alt H. Now do yourself a favor and download all the shortcut tips so that you can actually learn them. And without these shortcuts in your mind, it becomes very difficult to work with Blender. But luckily they're very they're quite logic to use, because S is scale and M is move, and it's not that difficult to learn. So what I'm going to do is, oh yeah, one more thing. If you're working with a module and you cannot select something, it won't select. That's because this little one has been disabled. So if you disable these, you can't click on them. And that's a good thing, because sometimes you don't want to click on something as because of a safety feature. You don't want to move a model, or, you know, so that's quite important to know.
So especially with like implant components, you, as a safety precaution, you would have those locked,
Yeah.
hey, Michael?
Yeah. So we're going to close this a little bit. And now we're working with objects in Blender, which are STL, OBJ, or PLY. We can color them. So what I'll do is up top here, there's something called matte caps, and Blender comes with certain matte cap shipped. You can make your own, by the way. We've made our own on the internet. There's tutorials on how to make your own. So matte caps are surface colors which have a light recorded inside of the actual texture. So this one is the gray. You can choose different ones depending on how you want to work. I've seen some people, they love the metallic one. So we've got a few. These are our own ones. Here's a super metallic one. And all right, so you can change it. If you're working with biological colors, I know the method, the PLY file format is beautiful with biological colors, and you would then set this to texture mode, sorry, to vertex mode, and that'll bring up the PLY. There are a few other scanners. I haven't been able to work out how to do this. There are ways to make the colors work, but I haven't spent too much time on that, to be honest. So Medit is perfect. It's really good. But if you've got a different scanner, you can post that on our group, and I'm sure someone is going to come up with the solution. All right, so we're going to look at the scan in edit mode. So this is very important.
Michael,
Because
just
yes,
before you get there, can you just show our viewers how to pan and how to scale, you know, zoom in and out and things like that?
good point. Yeah, that should actually fit in here now. That's good. Thank you, Wolfgang. So as I'm moving around, there's three ways to move around the scene. So one is to zoom in and out, and we're using the mouse wheel. Okay, that's very easy to do. The other one to do is we're going to push down on the mouse wheel and move the mouse so that we are rotating the scene. And the third one is by pushing down the shift key and the mouse wheel at the same time, we are panning across. So sometimes when you first start CAD, it's very difficult because you multitask. You've got to do one thing and you've got to zoom and shift and pan and whatever at the same time. I'll demonstrate soon. The widget up here, if I move that, we can move around. I can click on the X to see it from the right-hand side and the Y from the front. Now, what is X, Y, and Z? Now, if you look at Blender scene, we've got the green is the Y, the red one is the X, and there's another one, the blue, which is hidden away. Now we can hide these if we want to by clicking on this, and we can show the Z axis or the X axis or the Y. We can hide them away if we want to. Now, it's very important to learn that the red is the X and the X runs from this side to that side. Because in the future, when you're doing an implant guide, for example, and you want to rotate something, you may want to rotate it on the X axis or the Y axis. So you already know where which axis is, or the Z axis runs upwards. So this is the navigation. On the keyboard is a tilde key, and that's just above the tab, and it looks like this, okay? So if you look on your keyboard, that's the tilde key. Now, I work with this all the time, and that when I click on that tilde key, it brings up like a circular menu like this. And it's got the top, right, left, front. So when I click on top, I can see it from the top, tilde key. The tilde, this menu has numbers in it. So you'll see front is 7, right is number 6. So as an alternative to the tilde key, you can use your number keypad. So if you memorize this into your muscle memory, which I haven't done, you can quickly navigate around without this tilde key. Now, some of you may have a different keyboard. You don't have the tilde key. So we've got a video on how to create a shortcut using a different key on your keyboard. You could use a comma or you can use something else. But be careful because some of these are used up by Blender, like the N and the T key or the G or the S. You don't want to program that as your tilde key because you'll find out you can't scale your object or something. All right, so that's navigation. Now, meshes. On the scene, we've got 2 scans, and Blender's amazing because when we click on the tab key, we get to see it in edit mode. And it lights up like a Christmas tree, all fantastic. And, you know, if you're a child and you like to switch on the lights on and off, you know, we all went through that stage. You've got the opportunity to switch on millions of light bulbs. All right. So these are all lit up, and to switch them off, you go Alt A. Alt A is to switch them off, and A is to switch them on.
Select
Okay, so
all.
we're selecting and deselecting. Now, if I wanted to select a few in one go, I can use the B key, which is box. B for box, box select. Alt A, deselect. The C key is a circle select. And now with my mouse wheel, I can move the circle bigger and smaller. And when I click on it, it'll select a circle. Or I can brush it like this, which is also super cool. So this is how we select and deselect these vertices. If I zoom in very close, I can left click and I can select one, or shift left click and I can select more. Now, shift left click is a common Windows key to add to the selection.
So, Michael, what is the mesh actually made up of? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we've got all these dots. We call them vertices in Blender. We've got edges, which combine the dots, join them up, and we've got faces. 3 elements. Up top left, we've got an option to select which ones we want to select. So at the moment, we're on vertex select mode. The other one is edge select, so we can select the edges, okay? And the last one is a face select mode where we can select the faces. So if you understand that there's 3 elements and we can work with all 3 of these elements in Blender in edit mode. So I'm going to go back. You'll see here it says edit mode. And then you've got object mode and you've got edit mode. Tab is the shortcut key. Okay. So now what happens if we want to move a vertex? We can go select it and use the G key to grab. Yeah. Now you've noticed that when I grab this one, only one moves. We have something called proportional editing. So the center up top here, there's like a circle with a dot in it. So if we click on that, that's called the proportional editing. So if I use the G key now, and with my mouse wheel, I can select how many vertices I want to move. So everything within this radius will then move. Okay, so that's called the proportional editing tool. We've got a snap, like it looks like a magnet. So this snap is quite important in a few procedures when you want a vertex to stick on an object which is behind it. So we're not going to use that now because it may just stick on something all the way at the other side, okay? All right, so we're going to now start making, putting this into the center of Blender. Now, Wolfgang, can you explain why do we put these models into the center?
Yeah, so when we're basing, for example, the extrusion of the actual base will go into a vertical direction. So imagine if you had the scans now flipped the other way, the extrusion won't actually work. So we want to level the hypothetical occlusal plane onto the Blender, the floor of Blender, so onto the X and the Y axis. So by doing that, then if you mount, say, for example, study models, you make study models, then the vertical plane will be in the correct location in regards to those study models.
Yeah, that's good. And this is why we always insist of putting it into the center of Blender.
Also,
Now,
navigation is a lot easier because you can swivel the objects around a lot easier that way.
yeah, that's correct. I find very difficult when they're facing upwards. Sometimes when you import from a different software, they may be imported this way around. And please don't start making your arch cut and trying to make models. I've gone on TeamViewer and I've discovered this. Obviously, this is not going to work because we're extruding it in the Z direction and not in the Y direction. So the models have to be face downwards, okay?
Michael, when you import the STL, there's a little feature there. Can you just show that, how you can actually reorientate the import?
Yeah, so when you're importing, you've got up top here, you've got forward, up, forward. So it says Y forward and up is Z up. If all of your models are in the wrong direction, you can change this and then it'll import it on a different coordination. So that's a good point, Wolf. That's good. All right, so the point of origin, okay? So if I look closely and I select this, the point of origin is this little dot here. So if I move this, for example, you can see how this point of origin moves with it. This is an important structure because if we're moving something, say I click R, it moves around that point of origin, okay? So this point of origin, if you import something and the point of origin is over here, I'll just do that. I can right click and set my point of origin to the 3D cursor. Then you'll see how it's going to rotate, okay? So this is another reason why we want to align it into the center of the workspace, because it will then, our coding is going to put the point of origin in the center, okay? So now how do we do that? So when I click on N and go into the crown module, we have this up top here. It says, so not the crown, the model designer.
I was just thinking, what are you doing, Michael? That's
making,
Wednesday. It's Friday today.
no, it's Saturday morning
For us, but for most people, it's Friday.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align this to the center. Now we're working with names of the models. So that the script can actually recognize which model we're working on. So here I'm going to click on Enter Target, which calls it Target. And you'll see the name on the center in the top left-hand side, and of course the outliner. So please don't change it now because we are in the center, in the middle of a procedure. So this one here, we're going to name this opposing, and then we're going to link and flip it. So what happens is the other model, the opposing model, has been hidden. Yeah, it's hidden, so that we can place a few points, a few dots on there. So I'm going to use the cursor now. Now the cursor looks like a life-saving ring. It's the left hand. This thing is called a cursor. I'm going to go shift right click to place my cursor. Okay. So this is a bit like a laser gun. So you've got the target, and whatever you do is going to place it on that target. Okay. So this is a cursor. By shift right clicking, I can place a cursor wherever I want to place it. You can click on this one and then place it with a left click. I never use it. Okay, so maybe you want to use it. I never use it. Okay, shift right click to place a cursor. Then I'm going to use a P on the keyboard to put a point down. Now, if you don't, some of the keyboards don't have a P. I think it's like a Japanese keyboard and other keyboards. So you would then use this thing here, 4 points. Okay, so you click on 4 points. And we've called it 4 points because we don't want 5 points or 3 points. So there's a reason why we've called that 4 points. Now, this is one way of doing it, or you can use the shortcut key Shift D. Shift D is to duplicate, and that's very easy to use. So Shift D, move your mouse and left click. Again, Shift D, move your mouse and left click. Now I'm looking for this trapezoid sort of shape because we want to calculate the middle of this. And then we want to take these 4 little dots and plonk them down onto the Blender floor as if you're taking a model and putting it on your desk occlusely downwards. So that's this is basically why we're doing what we're doing. All right, so if you've got an edentulous arch, for example, then you just take your points and you just put them here. So I'm using the G key. So just put them behind the maxillary tuberosities, the hamelin notches, or somewhere. If you've got like a little scan, like a sectional scan, you can just place them like this, for example. Okay. So, okay, the whole purpose is to get it sort of aligned more or less into the center. Then I'm going to click on a line, and it takes the shortest route to plonk it down. Now, sometimes it could be upside down, okay? I've had this happen sometimes. This is why we've got these buttons here. If it is upside down, just click on it twice on the Y-axis. The Y is pointing towards us. And then you may want to lock the models. So if you're locking the models, they can't be moved. At the moment, we can still move them. By locking them, we can't move them anymore. And that can be very helpful. Some of our coding locks them automatically, like implants, because once they've moved, we don't want to move them again. And that's what it does. It actually just checks all of these. Okay, so you can uncheck them here if you want to, but it'll check them over here when we lock them. So we've aligned them nicely now.
So Michael, how do you go back? You know, when you've shifted the scan upwards and then you go back. So you use the Control Z, don't you?
Yeah, that's a common Windows key, is Control Z is to go back. Please don't try the escape key because you're going to be sitting there all day trying to go back and it ain't going to work. So just remember Control Z, okay? So what we're going to do is now we're going to then cut these meshes. We don't always have to cut the meshes, but from what I've seen, the mess that's coming through sometimes on scanners, you have bits and pieces all over the place.
Oh yeah. So by
So
the
that,
way, how do you edit these meshes? You know, sometimes, like you said, you know, you might have holes in it or like rips and things like that, Michael.
yeah, so if we've got a hole in it, so let me create a hole. C key, circle, select, X, shortcut key is X to delete. So I'll delete some faces. Okay. So I've not, like made a hole. Now, if you do have a hole with, I think I've got it set to about two or 400 edges. I'm not quite sure now. It'll fill. If it's a very big hole, like the top of this model, it's not going to fill. So there's a criteria here that we use to fill the hole. So if it's too big, we can still fill it, but we're going to then do a bit of scaffolding, I'll call it. So we're going to just click on fill holes, and that will just fill up this hole like you've seen here. It's a very simplistic mesh. I do recommend sculpting over that, which will then make it uniform. So if I look at the mesh now, we've got a uniform mesh structure again. So that's quite important, especially if you've got filling curves and corners and stuff. So if you've got like a rip, for example, so let's just create a rip, something like that, X, delete faces. There's no hole to be filled because this is a rip. So let's make this into a hole. So tab, I'm going to left click, shift left click, and I'm using F to fuse. That's going to put an edge across it. This means now that I've got a hole, okay? And we're going to click on fill, okay? Fill holes. And that should, so if it's a big hole, we would then make more lines going across, okay? But you got to make very sure that when you're drawing these lines, you don't click on this one here and then this one, because that's a disaster, okay? It's not going to work, okay? So in order to do that, just left click close to there, like this, and it'll
Well,
select it.
well, I have to be on the edge as such.
Not really. So I'm clicking close to it.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
not even.
But the
So
vertex
shift.
you select must be an edge vertex.
That's correct. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. That's right. So we're going to just click on fill holes here again. Okay. So that's how we fill. That's how we fill these holes. And I'm going to just go back, just to discuss how we're going to arch cut these things. Okay. So now that we've got that, what we are looking for is if your edge looks like something like this, that's okay. That's fine, because we smooth that edge down in our algorithm so that we can then extrude it going upwards, okay, into our beautiful base, okay. But if your edge looks something like this and it comes like this, okay, now this is the big problem, because what happens as we extrude this edge going up like this, okay, we've got problems here because these are intersecting each other, and they can also be inside out. Now, what am I talking about inside out? And this is when we call this flip normals. So when I click on this button here, face orientation, you'll see the model appears in blue and the inside appears in red. This shows us what is inside and what is outside. Sometimes when we're using Boolean cutting tools, especially on open meshes, it can flip inside out. So that means that all of a sudden it looks like this. So forget about it, because when you're doing arch cut and you're doing anything else, everything is inverted. So a Boolean union cut, a Boolean cut will be a Boolean union. So it's all positive and negative. Everything is opposites. Okay. So it's not going to work. Okay. So with a trained eye, you will quickly see that the shading is different. Okay. So that'll appear very fast. Okay. All right, so that's good. So we're going to extrude this into a top model. So we're going to go into model and upper base. Click on upper base. So it takes a little while, and that's because it's calculating a lot of things. Like it's fixing all of the manifold edges and everything. So this is what it looks like. If your top of it, your base has a hole in it, which means your scan has a hole in it. So simply go back and then fill up the hole. Now you may want the base to be longer. Click on this arrow key, or you want to be shorter, click on that arrow key. If you want to edit the base, click on scale edit, and then you can drag this one here, or you can scale it, or you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Can you just zoom into the mesh structure to demonstrate how an ideal mesh should look like for models?
Well, yeah, so this is what it looks like. We've got a very beautiful, simplistic looking mesh. Okay. All right, so so that's done. The lower one I'm going to make with a border. So just bear with me. This takes a little bit longer to calculate. So if there's any questions, it's a good time to ask.
The question is, yes, I am recording it, and the recording will put that on YouTube, so you can watch it later.
So here we've got one with an edge, and if I go into edit mode, you see we've got a nice border going all the way around this model. Okay, so this sort of separates the actual scan from the model, which also looks quite super cool. I'm going to just hide the top model and just quickly talk about some of the other cutting tools which we have. And actually what I'll do is I'll just take the top model and we'll just save this. File, save as, blah, 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 blah. All right. Other cutting tools. So shift right click to place the cursor. And we're going to then, if you want to hide all of these menus, just go on top of it, hover up there and go control left click. And that'll hide everything except for the menu that you're working on. Very important sometimes. Otherwise you get lost. I get lost. So here what we're going to do is, Wolfgang, I forgot to arch cut the model. Okay. I think we should go back. Okay, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. So here we're going to click on a vertex cutting, and this brings up one vertex, and I'm using G, and then I'm using E key to extrude, and I can make all these nice shapes, whatever I want. And we're going to click on slice, and that will separate it. It'll bring it into like two sections. It'll solidify. I can choose how big I want this. So if I put 0.3, it'll increase the dimension, and I'm going to click on accept. Now that has made a slice through my model, which is quite cool. Okay, so we've got the curve cutting, we've got the square cutting. So if I hide this, you can see it's been cut. If we've got the lasso, so if I go on the square cutting, I can scale this. I can rotate it, R to rotate. It doesn't have to be square. We can just make it a different shape. I'm going to select keep inside or keep outside. Let's keep the outside. Okay, now this is a dynamic cutting tool, which means we can move this cutting tool if we want to. Particular of interest is when we're doing special trays and implant components, we want to cut out a section and we'd like to cut it out. Now, if I move it to the side, you'll see it's actual an object, okay? So with a bit of experience, you can then move this differently or you can scale it. So it's sluggish. If you move it, it's sluggish because there's a Boolean modifier on there. So if you don't want it to be sluggish, hide this modifier And I'm just going to put hide cut, and I can scale it, scale Z if I don't want the cut to go all the way through, for example, like this. And then I can view this cut again, and I've cut it like a section off like this. And then I can accept that, accept. And then we've got the lasso one works very similar. So I'm not going to demonstrate all of these because of the time factor. I'll just go back and open up the other one because we want to just discuss the arch cut here. All right, so if you've got a really messy scan, I'll just put this into the center again. Just bear with me quickly. Enter this, flip. If you've only got one model, you will then only use the target because you don't have an opposing. So you can do this with one scan as well, okay? All right, so we'll hide this one. Now, sometimes we need to cut these. So I'm going to select it, shift right click to place my cursor, and we're going to click Arch Cut Tool. And this will extend, there's two vertices on the scene. One of them has been extended outwards. So here I'm using E left click. And this is what I'm used to, E left click, E left click, E left click. Note my multitasking. I've got to now set this down, finger on the mouse wheel, rotate, then click on the shift key, finger down on the mouse wheel, pan, then zoom, then rotate. So there's a lot happening here. So if you only start with CAD first, it's a bit difficult. So now I'm going to rotate, I'm going to pan, and then E left click, E left click, E left click, E left click. So for those of you that don't want to do E left click, I always use it. There's a menu here, you click on extrude. And this means you can just left click extrude.
I'm one of those people, Michael.
Really? Notice that in these hills and valleys, I call them hills and valleys, like crevices or concavities and convexities, whatever you want to name them, I've increased my vertex number that I'm putting down. And this is because we want this cutting tool to cut through our mesh. So we can see all of these vertices here, okay? It's very important, corners and so on, you put more vertices down, flat surfaces not. This cutting tool behind the scene looks like a bit of like a ribbon, which we're stretching on the inside and on the outside of this mesh. And we need it to cut through nicely. So if it doesn't cut through, you will quickly find out that it hasn't cut, okay?
Well, that means it's got to stay on the surface, Michael.
Yeah, so here, if you've engaged in this model, finish with this model, with this menu. I'm going to click on Fuse. If you don't use it, go Shift left click and use the F key like we've done when we did the scaffolding. Now click on Edit, and then you can move these vertices around. When you've done that, you're going to click on Trim, and that'll trim it. And if it didn't cut, you will see that it's not, you'll see there'll be a bridge going across from one side to the other. Now, why do we do this step? Is that because later on in the modules, we may want to select both sides of the mesh, which means that we can keep both sides. So you can imagine if we're cutting out like a surface of a gingivectomy guide, for example, and we want to keep both sides or something, we can keep both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on the surface that I want to keep, and we're going to then click on clean. Now the clean button is used in many different procedures as well, because what it does, it inverts the selection and it deletes the selection, which it's done here. And we'll just extrude those out into our model. Okay, so if there's any questions, please raise your hand.
Just a question of making a die, which you're getting
Yeah,
into now.
okay. Yeah, okay. I'll just want to do a hollow as well, because that's the next on the line. All right, hollowing, easy. Click on make hollow. There's a cube that appears. It's part of the process, and there's like a little sphere at the end. Ignore that. If you want to change the thickness, click on thickness, and then this is measured in scale. It's not millimeters. Bottom toolbar, 200 seconds or something, you can view the scale, click the scale, and then your wall thickness is increased, but not the filler thickness. Okay, just understand that. And then we're going to click on, if you just wanted hollow, click hollow or honey. The gyroid is super cool. I love the gyroid. It takes a little bit longer to calculate, but it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, we'll just wait for that. And then this will bring a cutting tool in the place, and we can move this cutting tool down. So if you're waiting, please don't click the make hollow 2 or 3 times, because, you know, it's like when you click for a lift and you don't click 2 or 3 times for the lift to come. All right, so
Kids do.
here, what, the traffic light, for
Or when you're
example.
impatient, click it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to just click on apply, and then we'll go into making the die. I'll just hide the lower one. Okay. Here, the first thing we do is shift right click to place a cursor, and we're going to click on draw die. And again, it shoots out a vertex. I use G, E, left click all the way. I want to draw around this, something like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shift left click and F to fuse. Then we're going to then elevate this. So I'm going to click on elevate. And the reason why we're doing it is because the cutting tool has to be above the surface. It's like when you're cutting through an apple and you don't cut all the way, it's still one apple. It's not 2 halves. Same thing. So here what we're going to do is we're going to click on make die, and that shoots out. It shoots out to the other side. You can see in transparent mode. And so please, when you do this, don't shoot it out this way or this way, okay? It has to be shot out this way. So from my eyes straight into the screen. And you'll notice that the vertices have been selected. They've all been highlighted, which means I can use a G key to select where I want the exit to be. If we've got thin little anterior lower teeth, very important, because then we can select where this is going to come out. Now, some have argued, yeah, but this is maybe too round, you know, the die can wobble or something, okay? Which it probably won't, because it's not cylindrical on the top. But if you want it to be creative, you can left click a few here, and then you can use the S key to scale. And you can scale this, and you can see then in the bottom, you've actually created a die without like anti-rotation. Others have wanted this die to be inside the model. So, okay, let's put it inside the model. I use the G key, put it inside, then I extrude it. We've got a video on this. Extrude, E, S, and then E, extrude, and then Z into the Z direction. Okay, so I've actually put it then this way. So, and so this is another way of doing a die. If you want to do a die, we've had some users say, yeah, but we don't want a space between the two. But with the resins that we are working on, not 100% exact, and we're looking at expansion. And if there is a way, we've demonstrated how to put this both at 0 with no space, But to me, it makes no sense, because if it expands sideways, it would also expand in the Z direction, which means your die may not even go down 100%. So I think the space, this clearance could be, but this is something you guys have to figure out. So I'll just go back a few steps back. You'll notice that there's a space that says 0.2 millimeters. So this is the clearance between the two. So if I look at it, 0.2, this is how thick this cutting tool is. If you want to go thinner, 0.1 or something, if your dies are loose or too tight or something, this is where you're going to adjust it. I think, Wolfgang, you've got like 0.18 or something that
Yeah,
you use.
something like that.
Now the tool looks big. Everything looks big in Blender. Now, you know, this is because we're working on a nano scale. You know, I mean, 0.2 is very, very small. If you think about it, it's tiny. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to cut the die. Perfect. So now we've got the die, which is cut. I'll just hide the rest. We can see how this die looks like. And we're going to go and commence into ditching this. So shift right click, draw margin, E to extrude, and left click. So we're going to go all the way. With this die, you can't really see a margin. So just extrude it. So now this is going to be a dynamic cutting tool. Again, we're going to extrude this out on towards my, you know, away from my eyesight. So not this way or that way, this way, okay? And we're going to then click on tool, and this will create a dynamic cutting tool. And so if you've got a very subgingival die, for example, it'll look like something like this. So I'll just Alt left click in between the two vertices, selects the edge loop, and S to scale. So if it's a subgingival die, you've got all of these bits and pieces hanging off on the side like this. Okay. So to get rid of this, okay, we're going to go zoom in, Alt left click. Okay. So not Alt left click on this one. It'll select the wrong edge loop. So Alt left click between this one and this one like this. It'll select that one, and then S to scale, and that'll get rid of all of the excess tissue. And then click on ditch, and that's finished there. Now we may decide that we want to ditch on the model itself. So we select the model, shift right click, and then we're going to go draw margin. And this time around, the other dies disappeared, and that's nothing to worry about. It's just so that we can focus exclusively on what we are doing. Because if you've got like 6 or 8 dies to do, you don't want the other dies to appear in your screen. Okay, again, look at it from a good angle. Click on tool, and then that'll create our cutting tool, and click on ditch. Okay. And while we were doing this, so we've magically had on the other side, so if I open up the outliner, we've got margins which have been created in the background over here, which we're then going to use for our crown and bridgework module. So we don't have to recreate these margins. We're going to be using these to make a crown directly on the model. Okay. So that's cool.
Can you remove a tooth, Michael? Is that possible?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is let's remove that front central incisor. We're going to click on draw gum line. So here, and what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this along the gum line. When we get to that side, we're going to extrude all the way through that, and place your, you'll notice that this line has been offset. I think it's by 0.3 millimeters. Then what we're going to do is we're going to mark this, which solidifies this offset basically, and it creates a sharp edge. In Blender, we call that sharp edge, but that's why it's pink. And that's only so that the code can select the sharp edge down the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to then click on the vertex here close to it, offset contact line, and then we're going to offset this line. So you can see again, it's been offset like this. And we're going to take it all the way across the contact, shift left click and F to fuse it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to then enclose the contact, and that puts like a little face there. You can see this in transparent mode. It's got like a little face there. And then we get to choose, do we remove this or do we make a die? So I'm going to just save this. So here, blah, 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 blah. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to cut it off. So I'm going to enclose a base, which will put a base there, and we can socket this tooth a bit. So if you're making a denture, for example, you can socket this a little bit, and then we're going to click on remove tooth, and then that should remove this tooth, which it has.
Now, can you use this tooth to create your own tooth library?
Well, yes, you can. Or what we can do is we can use this to make a crown. So we can then mirror image this in the wax up module, and then it'll be a mirror image, and we can then make this into a crown, which is super cool to do. Okay. So we're going to go back, and this time around we're going to make a die. So I'm going to look at it so it extrudes again from my eyesight, and make die like this. And we're back to exactly the same as before, and we're going to cut the die.
Some people have asked if it can be used for minor orthodontic work, Michael. Can you elaborate?
Well, it can, but from our side, no, we're not going to go away from our modules, because you can imagine we'll be inundated with, how do we do this? How do we do that? And so we stick strictly within the scope and confines of our modules. So anything outside of that you can do, but it's your baby to do. Okay, all good. So, yeah.
How would you, just lastly, just to finish off, could you just show us the Verti articulator, quickly import that, and how to make study models? If you can wrap that up in about 2 or 3 minutes.
All right, study models. Here we go. Just give it a matcap. You'll see that these two are joined. To unjoin them, I'm going to just, in the model design, click on separate.
Can you expand the menu a little, Michael?
Which part of the menu, Wolf?
Just expand it out. Yeah, like that.
Oh, I heard explain. Yeah, okay. So study models, we're going to go and name these. So this becomes the upper model, and this is the lower model. And we're going to import these like stencils. Now we're looking at from the top in transparent mode. This is a transparent sign here. Or we've got an X-ray, it says X-ray. Now these measurements are according to the American Board of Orthodontics. And now you'll see it doesn't quite fit. There's two ways of doing this. And we can scale this X, which means we're going outside of the American Board of Orthodontics, or we can cut the models, okay? But luckily in this example, it fits okay, okay? So I'm going to view this from the side. You see everything's in transparent. Makes it hard to work with. So I'm going to uncheck this X-ray mark, and these little stencil things, we can move these up and down because we don't want the back molar being ripped off or something. Note that I've made a model before we've actually done the study models. So don't use an open scan mesh and then try and do it. Okay, so we've got a Boolean union that's going to be happening on this one. So if you don't like the join, you can edit this join. Click on edit and then just go on here and then go GZ, and then with your mouse you can manipulate this, okay, wherever you want it to go. All right, so when you're happy with this, just click on upper base and then click on lower base. Okay, and then that's your study model. Shift right click to place your cursor and then add a text, maybe put your patient name here, patient, like that, and then scale this, S to scale, G to grab, and then you may want to extrude it less or more if you want to make it shallower or deeper or whatever. And then you can click on engrave or emboss, and that'll then cut it out. So that's easy. And this text does go around curves. So if you want to curve it around the front side, also okay as well. Okay. So the Verti articulator, we'll bring in the study model again. I'm going to just separate this out. Separate. And I'll just give it a quick matte cap color. Let's just be a little bit different now. So here what we're going to do is import, it says import Verti, okay. So what that does, it brings in a Verti articulator. These are made up of different components, so that we've got the top, we've got the bottom here, and we've got the arms, the articulator arms and the snap-in. So we've got a whole lot of different designs. Thanks to Ivan, he's absolutely amazing when it comes to these. So you can choose different designs in our shop. And what we're going to do is, sometimes you may be in this situation where you may have moved, we may have moved the lower jaw differently. So let me just go tilde key or right side and T key. So we may have opened the bite. We may have set the bite like this for sleep apnea device or phonetic bite or whatever. And now your Verti articulator doesn't fit. So what we do is we select it and shift left click to select the arm of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hook the base to the hinge. And that's super cool now, because we can, like, it's like chewing gum. We can move this anywhere we like, and we can position it where we want it to go, okay? Now, if you wanted to export this, select your components, your lower model, your lower Verti, your arm, okay? These three bits and pieces. Go File, Export STL File, and please do not forget this, okay? If you forget this, I'm going to get emails in the night saying, oh, all of my modules have been exported and I've tried to hide them. Hiding won't work, okay? You have to click on the selection only. Okay, I don't know why Blender has it by default selected off. It's a bit silly. Anyway, we're going to click on study, name it, export STL. So if I re-import it, so I'm going to hide this, A to select all and hide. I'm going to go File, Import STL, and I'm going to import my little Verti, my lower one that I'm going to print. And this is then what it looks like, okay? So basically that's what we're going to then print, and that'll snap into the top. All right, I think we've
Very cool,
spoken
Michael. There's a lot to take in, I think. You know, halfway you went on to making models and model designer, but the first half you've spent very well in describing how Blender, the features and the windows and navigation is something that can be quite tricky at first. It is a bit of a learning curve, but Blender is absolutely incredible. And once you get hooked on it, guaranteed, you'll spend some time on it. As always, if you've got questions, feel free. The best way to contact us is through the little chat feature on the website. You usually get a quick response that way. If you need help with installations, things like that, then just have your TeamViewer ID ready, and it takes about 2 or 3 minutes just to install the model designer, for example. Of course, we've got a team of instructors out there to help along, and they give professional tuition. There's one of them, Baptista, which is great. And there's amazing support out there, a lot of resources. So if you find it difficult, just flick us a message, and we are here to help you as well. I'll just open the floor for questions. If you've got anything you want to ask us, this is a great opportunity. Maybe you can ambush Michael with a question that he can't answer. Hey?
Not this morning, thank you.
Right. On a Wednesday, we go through more trickier situations. For example, we might want to make a bite splint, or at the moment we are going through the beta testing for crown and bridge work, where this Wednesday we will demonstrate the crown and bridge work module as it is now in beta testing. So it's amazing to see that this work in progress. And we also want to thank the beta testers out there. We've got quite a big team of laboratories and dentists testing this. It's tracking along very well, and soon it'll be made available. Excellent. Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And nice seeing everybody. And we will...
Excellent.
Yeah. Michael?
Time for a cup of coffee. Thank you all for joining. And I mean, there's a lot to learn, but as Wolfgang said, just flick us a message, and please look at our video tutorials as well. Otherwise we have to re-explain everything, from start to finish, and that's just, it's very time consuming. So please just engage yourself in the videos, maybe have your screen on the one side and your iPad or something on the other, and just follow the mouse moves. And before you know it, you'll know exactly what to do. I've been doing it for 6 years now, or 7 years. So not only dental stuff, but I know most of it. Blender is this big, I probably know half of it. So anyway, okay. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.